Hi, Ashley here and welcome to Funky Fresh Food. It's another week of the Great British Bake Off, which means yet another technical challenge. This week we're baking Savarin. Now as we're in the quarterfinals, I expect this is going to be a little bit of a tricky one. So fingers crossed it'll turn out okay. On my marks, get set, bake! So as per usual with my Bake Off bakes, I didn't have everything I needed. So I had to pop to the shops to get myself a new tin. Now this isn't exactly what they were after because they wanted a Savarin mould or a fleur-de-lis mould, but this is a fluted cake ring tin, which I think will do me well, and it's nice and shiny. So let's get cracking with the baking. The first thing we have to do is put our flour, sugar and yeast into a bowl and then add our salt. We'll put this to one side so it's away from the yeast. In a separate bowl we'll beat together our eggs and milk until they're fully combined. We'll then pour this into our bowl of flour and beat it around until we have a sticky dough. This should take around 5 minutes. Then we'll gradually add in our room temperature butter and beat it until it's smooth and elastic. Finally we'll add in the zest of a lemon and an orange before giving it a final mix around, covering it in cling film and leaving it to prove for around an hour. Whilst that's proving, we've got plenty of things to get on with. The first thing we're going to tackle is our syrup. We'll start this by adding our sugar to a pan along with the juice of 1 lemon and our water. We'll give this a good stir around and bring it up to the boil until all the sugar is dissolved. At this point we'll then remove the pan from the heat and add our Grand Marnier or other orange liqueur. We'll then leave this to cool and that's our syrup done. Next up we need to make a chocolate disc, and this is going to become an edible label to sit atop our cake. We'll start this by melting some of our plain chocolate in a bowl above a pan of simmering water. My recipe here says we'll stir the chocolate until it's reached a melting point of 50 to 55 degrees. Now I don't have a chocolate thermometer, the only one I had was a meat thermometer, so that's not really appropriate. So I'm just going to have to guess here. So I'm doing this incredibly slowly and having it on a very low heat so I don't heat the chocolate up too much. And I'm going to stop it just as it's all melted and fully combined. At this point we'll remove the bowl from the heat, add the remainder of our dark chocolate and give it a stir around until it's all melted. By the time it's reached 31 degrees, or in my case a guessed couple of minutes later, I'm going to put it into a piping bag so I can then pipe out my oval-ish shapes on a sheet of acetate. Now I'm not a piping expert, but I can tell that these are definitely not ovals, but they'll add a little bit of character to the cake, I hope. Whilst these chocolates are setting, we're going to repeat the same steps but with white chocolate this time. We'll then, in our best handwriting, pipe the word Savarin into our set dark chocolate discs. Now another topping to decorate our cake is caramel shards. We'll start this off by adding our sugar and water to a pan. We'll then bring this up to a boil, and as I'm doing this by eye, I'm waiting until it reaches a nice golden caramel colour. But if you have a thermometer, it's about 175 degrees C. At this point we'll remove it from the heat and pour it into our baking tray. If you're in the Bake Off tent, then you'll have silicone bakeware, but as I don't, I'm going to use a trick that I found out the other week. Lay down your greaseproof paper, cover it in a nice little layer of coconut oil, and then when you pour your caramel onto that, it won't stick one bit. Once our caramel's fully set, you can crack it with a spoon and then you'll have some wonderful shards. At this point, your cake batter should have risen a bit, so you can now spoon it into your greased Savarin tin, put cling film over the top, and then leave it to prove for another 45 minutes or until it's filled the tin about 3/4 of the way. Once this has happened, you can remove the cling film and pop it into an oven at about 180 degrees C for 20-25 minutes. After 25 minutes, mine has risen and has a nice golden brown top to it, so I'm going to take it out of the oven and leave it to cool on a wire rack for around 10-15 minutes. Once it's cool enough to handle, I'm going to tip it out of its mould. I'll then grab my syrup that I made earlier and pour around half of this into the Savarin mould. Then, being as gentle as possible, I'm going to put the cake back into the mould so it can start soaking up those wonderful syrupy juices. In my recipe it says pour the remaining syrup into a roasting tin so you can then flip the cake into it so it's sat in the syrupy juice too. Now the only dish I could find that would fit this mould is a frying pan, so that's what I've done. We'll leave this to soak for around 5 minutes before carefully tipping it back out onto a plate. Now another decoration for this cake is fruit, and the recipe calls for you to segment an orange and then remove the skin from these segments. Now out of a whole orange, I only managed to get 4 sort of complete segments. So this is very fiddly and you end up with orange juice everywhere, but give it a go and maybe you'll do better than me. Along with this orange, I'm going to decorate my cake with kiwi, mango and a few blackberries, but you can use whatever fruit you have to hand. Paul and Mary obviously aren't satisfied with having caramel, chocolate and fruit as your only toppings for this cake. So next up we have to make a chantilly cream. For this we're going to add icing sugar, double cream and vanilla paste into a bowl and whisk it until we have soft peaks. We'll then spoon about a third of this mixture into a piping bag fitted with a large star nozzle. Using my expert piping skills, I'm going to try and do some sort of decoration on top of the cake, and then with the remainder of the chantilly cream, I'll spoon that into the hole in the middle of the cake. I'll then carefully arrange the fruit, caramel shards and chocolate disc label, and then we're finally ready. I've just watched the technical challenge from the Great British Bake Off and I've got to say I'm pretty pleased with myself because it looks the part and hopefully it tastes the part too. That's a cake that I think could even impress Paul Hollywood. It's got a really nice spongy texture inside and the syrup's dripped all the way down to the bottom, and as you can see it's got a nice even bake. I think it had a good proof because it's all filled out my tin, although we can't fully test it because mine's not as patterned. But just look at that. Think how good it tastes, and it tastes even better. So I think I could have probably come first in the technical challenge this week, but that's if we ignore the fact that mine probably took twice as long as theirs did. But anyway, I'm still really pleased with that, and I think I might even make this again. It's a real winner. If you've enjoyed today's recipe, then please give me a thumbs up, and if you want to stay up to date with all my future recipes, then please subscribe. And as always, I'm going to go enjoy this. I might not even have a cup of tea with this one, just enjoy it how it is. It is phenomenal. Bye.